Hey everybody, and welcome to another rock solid video from the Mysidia Post. My name is Alex Scott,
And I'm, of course, Travis Pfeifer. We're going to keep you down to earth.
and we are doing Opus XI set reviews. This video is going to be all about all of the Earth cards in the set. So let's get started with one of my favorite cards, probably my most hyped card of the entire Opus XI set, and that is Ursula, the first Earth Legend. So Ursula is a 4 CP 5k job monk. Forward, category 4. When Ursula enters the field, choose one job monk or card name monk of cost 2 or less in your break zone played onto the field. Put one job or card name monk other than Ursula into the break zone. Select one of the two following actions. Until the end of the turn, Ursula gains 4,000 power and brave, or you can choose one forward and deal it damage equal to Ursula's power. So this is a really cool card, and I've been playing just a bunch with it. I've tested it in Earth Wind monks, Mono Earth monks, and Fire Earth monks, all different styles, and I'm just really loving the card so far. It has that text that Travis was talking about that's so important, that it says job and card name monk. That's just absolutely vital. And it's just an efficiency machine. So I'm often able to open up playing it very early to play a backup and a forward and get some pressure in, and then I keep playing more monks. If you play Yang, you can follow up with some really nasty removal plays, and otherwise my decks are all just built around kind of pumping her up so that her second ability, where she can just ping someone for her power, is super deadly. This is a lot of investment, so I don't know whether or not this card will end up making it as top tier, but I really do think it has all of the tools, including some other monks that got printed, to be successful.
Since I don't know much about monks, I'm just going to spend my portion of the review asking Alex a couple questions. For the first time, I just realized how low her power is. She's only 5k. Have you ever found that to be an issue, or is that not really a problem?
So that's why I built every single deck I have has something in common, which is it runs Kadaj, the Dark Forward, and Warrior of Light, the Earth Legend, or
Okay.
Wall. Both of them give a 2k boost per turn to Ursula, which can make her a respectable 7k ping or higher. All the decks run some sort of power booster, including things like Ignis, Anna Crow, Maria, things like I'm totally blanking now, the Fire Forward Lease that gives 1k
Yeah.
boost to all your forwards. There's just so many different ways to passively buffer, and it's really important because when you're breaking your own backups or sometimes forwards, it's not sustainable. So you can't be comboing off, like, for example, the new Exodus summon. If you're casting Exodus, and even though it's a 1 CP summon to boost her by 3k, and then you're breaking a backup, you're actually casting a 1 CP summon that is doing a certain amount of damage, and then you're just spending a lot of cards. So you need to be able to make her as good as possible passively, so that she can just use her abilities to the full extent. Otherwise, you're just going to lose resources way too quickly.
Interesting. Do you find yourself using her power buff and brave more, or the damage more?
I use the damage way more.
Okay.
I fake the power buff all the time, so I'll swing and make my opponent block, or pretty much opponents never blocked, and then I don't have to use it because they know that I can threaten it. So it's been a really good feint for me. So I really do think this card has everything it needs to be super successful, and it's only going to get better the more monks that we get printed.
Awesome. Love the artwork.
Yeah. All right. So we started with one of my favorite cards, and we're moving on to one of yours.
All right, here we have a brand new version of Arden Izunia, Lucius Kaim from Final Fantasy 15. He is a 5-drop, 5-cost, 9k forward. So here's the thing. Here's how this card reads. When Arden enters the field, choose one forward opponent controls. It cannot attack or block until the end of the next turn. When Arden is put from the field into the break zone by your opponent's summons or abilities, play Arden onto the field at the end of the turn. So when this card was revealed, we were all pretty excited because it was like, oh, wow, you know, I think the 7-cost Arden is such a neat card. But Alex and I have a video on here of cards we would change, like erratas. And one of the suggestions I said was, wouldn't it be kind of neat if Arden instead, like, you could get rid of him, but he would always come back? Because that's technically what happens in the game. It's not that you can't kill him, it's just that he will always be sent back. And so they listened to my idea and took my suggestion, so I will be expecting my check in the mail, Square. I'm very grateful for that. Here's the problem, though, is that I don't know if this is a translation error, but according to Kageyama on Twitter, this card doesn't work the way it reads. Apparently, he will only come back if he's put to the break zone via an outright break, like Diablos, or something like Famfrit. If he is like nuked with a Bahamut or an Ifrit that does his damage, he doesn't come back from that, which is just so weird because it's what it reads. It says if he's put in by summon or ability, he should come back. So I don't know why they wrote it that way or what was going on with the translation here, but yes. So apparently he will only come back if it's an outright break or it's a Famfrit type ability or like Veritas. And because of that, unfortunately, that just makes this so much weaker than I originally thought it was, because I thought it was just going to be, oh, it's just going to be really, really sticky. So because of that, it's just made it harder for me to judge this card, especially compared to the 7K Arden, or the 7-cost Arden. And sometimes, I mean, against the right deck, that card is just a monster. So I just don't know. He has a very strong entry effect, basically taking out one of their forwards that says it can't attack or block. That on its own is definitely worth a look. I could see you putting that into, you know, any numerous decks, especially if they have a really strong attacker like a lock or something that, you know, is going to give you trouble. The fact that you can just say, nope, can't attack or block, that's a very powerful effect. So maybe he'll see play based off of that. I just don't know now, again, because of the way that second ability, like, that just makes it less relevant than I originally thought it was. So I don't know if I'll play this over the 7-drop. I might try both. Maybe I'll put one of each in my 15 deck and just kind of see, maybe, like, put the right one out for the right situation. But again, with the 7-drop can't be Diablos either. To me, the only thing this one has over that is this one, this one can't be Famfritted. Because the 7-cost is also Brave. This one isn't Brave, so when he attacks, he's going to go sideways, so he's not that just, like, beast of a blocker the other one could. So, I don't know. We'll have to take some time to see, but I really wish they had correctly worded how he actually works, because imagine explaining that to a new player. They're going to think you're cheating, that you're being like, oh, actually, nope, it doesn't do that. It does this other thing I say it does. Like, so that part was definitely a disappointment.
I really don't understand why they made that change. Like, for example, if I'm a mono earth player, if I kill this with a 5-cost Cecil, it's going to come back. If I kill this with a Raubon, it's not going to come back. That makes literally no sense to me at all. So just to add on to a couple of your points, there's so many ways to give, and we're going to talk about this later, category 15 forwards Brave. It's insane. They just, like, every second category 15 earth card says give category 15 forwards Brave. But that kind of leads to the biggest issue with this card for me, is that in combat it doesn't come back if it dies. And it's just gonna trade in poorly in combat. I mean, if you're gonna go mono earth, it's probably gonna be a 10k. So in which case, like, it might be safe, but it's also just it's kind of a dangerous card that way, in that, like, it can just as easily become like a card that just dies in combat, which is why they gave it that first ability. It had to have more than the second one. It was absolutely appropriate to give it something else, and I love that first ability. And Earth can recur stuff like this to play it again. So you play it on your turn, and that forward can't block. You get your damage in, and then the next turn that effect is still persisting, and that forward cannot attack. So it's just over 2 turns it shuts down a forward, and I think that's a really neat ability, and it's very, very strong. It's strong enough that this card could see play in both aggressive decks and controlling decks.
Yeah. Final note on that last ability, too, an important part of that, it just says play him onto the field. It doesn't say dull. So he's actually active when he comes back, which means not only has he now taken out something that can block or attack, he is also still up as a blocker for you. So, again, I can definitely see potential with him, and I hope he's one of those ones that, like, playing him feels a lot better. But, again, I think I was just so disappointed that it was just so weird to have – we have that effect in, you know, Death Penalty Vincent, in Ishtola from Scions, the Earth version. We have text that says, can't die to opponent summons or abilities. We've got another legend coming up that's going to have that same effect. So it's like, okay, well, that's what you want to just put that on there. Why would you word it this way? If yeah. So
yeah, we
we're just
literally have text that does what it actually does.
Yeah.
And it exists and has existed for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Let's move on. Okay, so back to our new monster mechanic. This is Ant Lion. It's a 3 CP monster, multiplayable job insect FFTA, which is relevant to this set. 7k power. During your turn, Ant Lion also becomes a forward with 7k. Now, these cards in Earth always tick me off because I'm like, they still die to Shantoto. But what's kind of cool, to your own Shantoto, that is. So this has a pay 1 Earth, discard Antlion, remove 1 backup from the game. Choose 1 forward you control, dull it until the end of the turn. It gains 2,000 power, and this forward cannot be broken. You can only use this ability if Antlion is in your hand. This is my first or second favorite version of these monster cards. Because even though Earth does have a way to break their own backups quite easily, the thing that I like about it is that it's a couple of summons mixed into one. You can use this when you attack as a way to boost your power by 2k. You can use it when someone uses removal on you. You can use it when you're blocking, and those are all it's a pretty wide range of abilities. So I think that makes it a little more useful than just putting in removal into your deck. It kind of gives you some flexibility, and then this will become a big attacker on your turn because you're playing Earth, so you have a lot of power boost. So I'm not saying it's great, I'm just saying it's of all of these types of monsters, this is probably one of the ones I like more.
Yep, 100% agree with you. It has probably one of my favorite effects out of the ones we've seen so far. It's still hard to see it getting space, but it's cool. I've always liked the Antlion as a monster in Final Fantasy. He has good lore without the series, so it's cool to see him get a card.
Yeah. Okay, we got some Ronsos coming in.
Yankee. So Yankee is a 2-cost Earth backup, job Ronso. He has 1 ability. You tap and put him into the break zone. Choose 1 forward. It gains 1,000 power for each Earth forward you control until the end of the turn. It's nice to see Yankee get a card finally. Biron will be coming up shortly as well. I always like those 2 characters in 10, so it's nice to see them get represented. I don't know. This is, you definitely will play this with Biron, as we'll see shortly. Other than that, like, it's weird because, again, this is one of those effects that, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with this effect, because at minimum it's a 1k power boost, assuming that's the only forge you have. If you have more, you're giving them a bit. The only thing is just like Earth just already does that so well. It's already an element that just has so many ways to boost people by power. I just don't know if you're going to have this as a slot over something else, maybe, depending on the type of deck you're running. He might have been fun in like pre-release, but it's hard to see whether he's going to get a slot in a constructed deck.
I don't think you, like, unless you're playing Biran, there's literally no other reason to, because other backups do the exact same thing, and those backups aren't seeing play. This one has the no cost besides breaking them, which is good, but it's still, I don't think it's good enough.
Yeah. Also, it's pretty much strictly for mono Earth. This isn't one you can really tech into like a dual element. So.
All right. So next we have Claris, which is a card that possibly shouldn't have been printed. But he is a 4 CP backup. His job is Chief Minister. He's category 15. He has an EX burst and reads, when Claris enters the field, you may search for 1 job king and add it to your hand. So Rampier is a king, and now we have a way to search him out in L3, and that's just a total bummer. So let's take all the Rampier stuff and just kind of like shoot it over there. It's obviously that's an issue, but otherwise this is a really cool card because there's lots of job kings in the game and different elements, and I think that's so neat when you get these job searchers because it kind of rewards you doing your research and allows for some really cool deck building aspects. It allows for some cool ways to color fix or some neat interactions to kind of create new decks. So I do love this type of searcher, but it's just the Rampure part of it that makes me not like it.
Yeah, it's well, it shows what a problem that card is when, again, cards that like kind of somewhat support it just it makes it a big mess. Anyway, they really seem to like the 15 theme of like, hey, let's have like the chief minister guys from 15 be backups that are 4-cost EX bursts. Yeah, it's a burst on top of that, so you're definitely going to run this in Rampure. But yeah, it's just neat beyond that, and I like the idea of giving all these job kings more relevance and being able to pull it out. I'll have to think about whether I'll play this in 15 or not, but you could, because if you hit this off a burst, oh, I'll pull out Regis, you know, and that's just a free card value for you, so...
That is pretty huge. I really like that interaction. Although I wonder whether or not you'll play Regis, depending on some of the other cards in this set.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, did you say your car broke down recently?
It did, actually. Yeah. It's a shame with everything that's been going on. Now my car doesn't work. I could really use a mechanic. Do you know?
So yeah. So where do you think you're gonna go to get that fixed?
I don't know. There is this little place outside my house called Hammerhead Junction. It seems like, I don't know, they seem like they're still in business, and I've always heard really good things about them.
Yeah, they've got some good employees.
Absolutely.
All right, take it away.
All right, this is Cindy from Final Fantasy 15, your job engineer, which I agree with you. That'd be cool if that became a theme one day. Like, you can have a whole Cid deck of engineers. So Cindy is the box topper for the pre-release kit. Just got mine today, so I pulled one out. That was nice. She is a 6 CP backup, category 15. But oh man, is she going to be worth it. When Cindy enters the field, you may search for up to 2 category 15 forwards and add them to your hand. Tap, choose 1 category 15 forward. It gains Brave until the end of the turn. Dull Cindy, pay an Earth, and put her into the break zone. Until the end of the turn, all the category 15 forwards you control gain 3,000 power. I mean, if you're running a 15 deck, why wouldn't you run this? Like, yeah, it's 6 CP, but similar to Minfilia, the Earth Legend backup, you're getting 2 15 forwards, so it's a soft 2 CP because you're instantly pulling 2 back to your hand. Once per turn, like you mentioned earlier, 15 forwards are almost like permanently brave, whether it's through Ignis or it's going to be through her, but just even more ways to give them brave. That's never a bad thing. And then, yeah, that final one as a final, just like, especially if you're going for that all-in push turn, boom, breaker, everybody. And what's great is that, because I'm definitely building a new Earth Lightning 15 deck, it's not just the Earth ones, it's all 15 forwards. So if you've got Arena out there, if you've got Nyx, if you've got any of the Kingsglaive, everybody's getting a 3k power boost. Like, that's fantastic. Plus, on the offhand chance you've got another Cindy to play, being able to clear her out to then slam down another one. Like, yeah, this card is just great. Love the artwork. I mean, who doesn't like Cindy? It's just everything about it reads fantastic, and it's nice to see 15 get some real love.
Yeah, lots of good 15 cards in this set. I do really like this card, and I was looking at it before this video actually, because I was building some decks, and I wasn't 100% sure about it over Regis, which I'll ask you about in a second. And then I thought, well, you know what? That final action ability works really well with the 3 CP Noctis Legend. If you're going to have him fight on damage, then what a great way to power boost. And this also just is so nice to search 2 forwards because it gets you Noctis and Gladio. Like that.
Yep.
So if you don't know Gladio, he gets a 2 CP discount for when you have a Noctis on the field. And if you're playing the forward Noctis and not the backup, sometimes it's hard to make those things happen at the same time. This allows you to set that up right off the bat and get a ton of value very early on in the game. So if you're running this, Cindy, are you going to be running Regis as well, or maybe a combination?
I don't know. I'm just going to have to test. Here's the cool thing about the 2 CP Noctis that came out in Opus 8. There are enough 15 cards. You can make it so that card will never whiff because it reveals the top 2 cards of your deck and you add 2 15 cards to your hand. And there's enough now that you can make it so that card will always hit. So that's interesting too. It's hard to say for, I mean, because basically they do the same thing. So I feel like I'm going to favor this over Regis unless I'm running Core specifically, because then he gets buffed off of Regis. She's just so strong, and I'm even thinking, Noctis and maybe Ignis, or Gladiolus and Ignis, because then Ignis can search out the Noctis. Like, she just sets up a lot of chains. So, especially with Claris, I don't know. It's just, it's going to be. It's a good problem to have. There's some tough decisions to make of what to keep and what not to keep. So.
Okay, so next up is Exodus FFTA. It's a 1 CP summon, EX Burst. Choose one forward you control. Until the end of the turn, it gains 3,000 power. Wow, that's okay. Oh wait, it gets Brave. It also gets this forward cannot become dull by your opponent's summons or abilities. It also gets this forward cannot be returned to its owner's hand by your opponent's summons or abilities. And if your opponent has received 5 damage or more, so that's your opponent has received that damage, all forwards you control gain that previous effect instead. This is a really cool card. I've seen mixed reactions to it. I think that it's great because just because of the versatility of it, and that I'm looking at building a lot of radio decks, so you need 1 CP summons. But the EX burst part of it is really nice as well, just on defense. Because it's your opponent taking 5 points of damage, it's really good in an aggressive Earth deck, which is kind of an oxymoron because you don't have that many aggressive Earth decks, but you might now because of the Arden and stuff. So if you really get after your opponent and you put them on 5 damage and they start to stabilize, then all of a sudden you drop this Exodus, and it's kind of like if you played back in Opus 1, 2, and 3, a really common play was to play the Opus 1 Gapal. When Gapal enters the field, give all your forwards 4,000 power, and then you just swing out for the win. And you'd only ever play him in that exact situation. But it was how Earth 1 matches and Earth Ice 1 matches. So this is going to be kind of similar to that we're going to have these big turns where it's like, okay, everyone's +3, and now it's you can't chump block, you can't trade, you just have to take it, and that's it. So I think it's a good card.
Oh, I think it's fantastic. Anyone who's poo-pooing on this, it's 1 CP. 1 CP is, unless 1 CP actually hurts you somehow, 1 CP is never bad. Even if you're just using it, they're trying to bounce a card to your hand, and you just go, no, 1 CP, now I'm completely safe. 1 CP, 3,000 Brave. 1 CP, you can't be dulled. Again, you can totally stop a combo with that. And to see an EX Burst, especially with Titan that just came out in Opus 10, it almost feels like, let's just do that again and we'll give it all these other effects. Like you said, the fact that the text just keeps going and going and going, and then at damage 5, like you said, giving everyone that power, holy cow. Again, it's 1 CP, who cares? If this was 3 CP or something, I could see well, I don't know, what if I don't come into that situation, but it's 1 CP. You're going to find a way to fit that in. One thing I will note, which is worth remembering. So for the 5 effect is actually not a blanket board. You still technically have to choose one forward. So if your opponent can make that fizzle by destroying that forward on the stack, then actually Exodus will fizzle and no one will get the buff. So just something to keep in mind when playing it. But no, again, 1 CP EX Burst with those. This is never going to be bad. This is a great card.
You just cast this on your Arden, and then they'll they'll use removal on the Arden, and it'll come back.
Right.
So the only thing this card has going against it is not really anything at all. It's just competition for space, right?
Right.
There's so many good Earth summons, and if you want to jam all your Titans and Yojimbos, then it's going to be hard to play this card, but you're going to have to make that active choice of what you want in your deck, and this is certainly going to do some work for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to our second legend.
All right. This is Tifa from Final Fantasy VII. 5 costs.
Oh, that's what game she's from. Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, apparently it's popular or maybe coming back. I don't know. What's this Final Fantasy VII the kids are talking about? Anyway, Tifa is a 5 cost, 9k forward, job, martial artist. Sorry, no monk. If you control a card named Cloud, the cost for playing Tifa onto the field is reduced by 1 and can be paid with CP of any element. The Category 7 forwards other than Tifa you control gain 2,000 power and Brave. At damage 3, Tifa gains. The Category 7 forwards you control cannot be broken by opposing summons or abilities that don't deal damage. Whew, she is a beast. In a 7 deck, I mean, giving all your 7 forwards that they can't be broken by stuff that doesn't deal damage. My buddy really likes the new Vincent where he can chaos and he gets him up to a 13k first strike. It's just the only thing that really stops is you just outright break it. but she can make that so that doesn't happen on 3, and then she just gives everyone else 2,000 power and brave. Her first effect is honestly just like, whatever. Like, if it happens, it happens, but you're not playing it for that. She is such a powerhouse for 7. Honestly, the only thing holding her back is competition with the other Tifa, in particular the 4-cost Tifas, whether it's the fire version or my personal favorite, the earth version that has Brave. Those can be hasted off of the backup Zongan, whereas this card cannot. So that is kind of an issue there, but she's such a protector, and especially if you're at damage 3, you know, 5-cost cards, everyone's always, well, Diabolos. That's their biggest weakness, is they'll just die to Diabolos. If you're on damage 3, that's not happening. That's not happening to her or anybody else, and you're boosting everyone by 2k Brave. Like, having played a lot of 15, I've seen how strong that can be for Ignis to do that, the other 15 characters, and he's only 1,000 Brave, so yeah, she's a beater for sure.
Yeah, as soon as you get to damage 3, you're just laughing because it's not that easy to remove her. Yeah, so I don't have too much to add on to this, except for just that I'm really excited about the first line of text. If you control Cloud, the CP can be whatever CP. Like, you can pay for her with whatever CP you want. So I'm looking at this in several lists, because you can play a light Cloud in whatever list you want, and then she becomes playable in that element. So for example, in Earth Ice, or even in you know, you could do something like Earth Fire, you could do something like Ice Fire, and she's very playable in Ice Fire. You could do it in light, like, so Final Fantasy VII is actually quite strong now in every element except for water. So even in wind, you've got a full like Yuffie Sid package that you can try out with as an Aeriths and stuff. So you've got a bunch of element combinations, and you don't even have to include Earth at all, because it's reasonable that you would have a Cloud out in most of those decks, just like it is now with the 4 CP version that you're pretty much never paying for 4 CP for, right? You're getting the discount. So I'm excited to try her out in lots of different decks.
Yeah, she's great.
Okay, this next forward, I can't really get my head, or sorry, it's not a forward. See, I just did it in my head. I keep thinking this is a forward, and I think it's because of the ability. I just feel like that's an ability that's always been on a forward. But so this is a backup. His name is Tyro. He's from Final Fantasy Record Keeper, and he is a 5-cost EX Burst Job Apprentice. So he has EX Burst. When Tyro enters the field, you may search for one forward and add it to your hand. So that's any element, just a forward. And so that's a very good effect. Obviously, he's a little expensive at 5-cost. If he's on the field, he can produce CP of any element, so that is very, very strong. And then he has tap at damage 5 to choose one forward. It gains 2,000 power until the end of the turn, which is just a really solid ability. Damage 5 is a bit far away, but if you have him out, it's a backup, right? So that makes the damage ability way easier to achieve. Like, you're guaranteed to have him out for the most part. So I think this is a really neat card. You're really going to want to have to play him for the color fixing, because it's not worth paying an extra 2 CP for a forward searcher. There's lots of searching in the game, and you have a 4 CP backup in Earth that searches forwards for you. So like, I really don't see a reason to play this unless color fixing is very important for you. Bless you.
Ooh, thank you. Yeah, I've heard a lot of buzz about this card. I think he will definitely find a home in like Iridia Summon deck, or one of those wild summon decks that's going to play a bunch of different elements. I can definitely see him having a home there, because then he can color fix. Maybe he'll have a place in Rampier, because he is a burst, and because Rampiers often will run 2 or 3 elements, so it'd be a way to help kind of color fix that. And I like his damage 5 ability simply for the fact that he doesn't have to break himself to do it. So again, you can just repeatedly, turn after turn, pop it. Yeah, like you said, you're not going to run him in 15. You're not going to probably run him in Mono Earth, because you have other searchers already that are going to find you what you want. So you will be, I think, specifically, like you said, really going for that color fixing aspect. So if you're running a multi-element, like I said, I can see my buddy in his summon deck, because he runs so many different elements. This is going to be great for him, that he can now have basically a Shantoto or a Chaos or a Cosmos just in hand.
That being said, that damage 5 ability does really work with a lot of Earth cards. For example, with Raubon, it guarantees that he survives his own damage. With the Ursula that we just talked about at the beginning of the video. It makes her pretty live on her ability, but that's not something you can bank on because it's damage 5. It's just like if you're playing a deck that, like if you're playing Water Earth, for example, that has damage reduction in it, and you're already playing Raubon, then this makes your late game Raubons super live. But it's something that it's a bonus, not something you build around.
Yeah, for sure.
So this next card, I didn't realize it was a hero, and Travis pulled a couple of them. I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah, I just opened my pre-release kit today, and I was so disappointed that 2 of my hero rare slots got opened by Tilica, and I was like, why is she in this slot? And it's like, oh, she's a hero. How about that? Anyway, so Tilica is a 3-cost backup job crystal user from Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. She has one ability, you dull her. The cost required to play your characters onto the field this turn is reduced by 1. It cannot become 0. You can only use this ability once per turn. How very interesting. Definitely huge combo potential. So it's your characters. So it's anything you play down that turn is now 1 cheaper. So you have to pay 3 CP. Minus, yeah, sorry, any forwards, backups, and monsters. So you've got to put her down for 3, and then you're going to tap her for 1. So that's 1 CP you're going to lose. But so obviously, to make her worth it, you're going to want turns where you can slap down a bunch of people at once. Again, this is one I'm just not sure about. This could either be super game-breaking or just not very worth it at all. Again, in the right deck, I could something like WAF or something that already has a bunch of cheap characters. I could see, oh, now they're all even cheaper than they already are. But then maybe, well, those characters are already so cheap, so you don't even need to do that. So maybe this is just a space waster. So again, I can see the potential of this, but I have to admit I'm currently leaning more towards the fact that, I feel like this is just going to be too much of a combo setup. Then it's going to be worth playing, but maybe I'll be wrong about that. What do you think?
I think that the first 3 cards aren't discounted at all, right? So when you tap her, that's 1 CP spent. So the first card obviously isn't discounted because you just spent a CP on it, and then you also paid extra for a 3 CP backup that did literally nothing when you played it, so you lost some CP there. So you have to use her multiple times. You need to use her with lots of forwards or characters or anything in 1 turn, and that's a combo. And combos are harder to assemble in FFTCG because we have a small hand size. You use cards in your hand as payment, so it's hard to hold on to cards because you have to use them. So assembling a combo, it can be very difficult. So that's where I don't think this card's going to be very strong, but I do think that at some point it might be. If a combo comes around that is strong enough to utilize this, then this is a card to keep an eye on. But otherwise, I think it's just super fair. I don't think it's going to end up being that bad.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and like you said, because you have to tap her for 1, you have to at least put 2 people out, in 1 turn. Otherwise, it's not even worth it to do it. So, and like you said, depending on your turn, sometimes that can be difficult to do. So, yeah, I guess we'll see about her.
Okay, so we have Barrett next. He's a 4 CP, 8K forward, category 7 job. Avalanche operative, which is important because that's searchable and boostable, etc. And he just has a bunch of action abilities. So the first one is 2 Earth and Doll, deal 4,000 damage to all the forwards opponent controls. I like that one a lot. The next one is 4 Earth and Doll, choose 1 Doll forward, break it. Again, that's pretty good. Like, these are good abilities. 3 damage, 3 CP to do 4K to everything, and then well, not even 3 CP because it's on a forward, and then 4 and a Doll to break something. Like, those are fine. And then he has a special Unger Max, so 1 card named Barrett, and then 6 Earth and Doll, break all forwards and monsters your opponent controls. So that is 8 CP and dulling your Barrett, which isn't actually impossible. It's actually not that highly costed if you think about something like Shantoto or Arc or any of these big board clears. But the biggest if about it is that you have to keep this Barrett around, and the conditions need to be appropriate, that you want to spend 8 CP to break stuff, and I do like that it hits monsters as well. I think we're going to see some monster decks in this set, but overall, this card, I honestly love it, but I think it's probably too much work.
Likewise, he's so fun. He's just a fun card. Like
Yeah.
even if you don't necessarily get it off, the threat of it, your opponent's gonna be, oh man, how much RCP do they have? Like, do they have a special in hand? Like, just the threat of that is gonna be so much fun. So he's definitely gonna be worth trying out. I don't know how great he'll ultimately be, but at least he's on curve. And like I say, he's just so fun. He's probably gonna have to go in mono earth is the only problem. Like even on mono, like a fire earth 7. It's going to be hard to pull these off because they all specifically have to be paid with Earth. I heard once that it's actually supposed to be Anger Max, but in my original version of Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation, it said Anger Max. So I don't know if that was a translation thing. Either way, the real question is, why is it not called Catastrophe, which is Barrett's ultimate limit break? This was, I believe, his level 3 limit break. I believe this was one of his level 3 ones. Catastrophe was his ultimate one, so I wish it was called Catastrophe, but regardless. And the other thing is, I'm only focusing on Unger Max, because that's just kind of what makes this card so nutty. But his other 2 abilities are fine, like 4k damage to the board. If you could find some way to give this guy Brave if you're playing him with that new Tifa, so he can attack for Brave, and then on the stack, tap and boom, hit the board, or boom, dull something, break it. So yeah, he's a really fun card, and I hope we get to see some fun matches with him.
Maybe there's some cool interaction with, since Earth is the color fixing powerhouse. Maybe there's a mono Earth list that runs like a Urianger Layak thing, so that you can, right before someone's swing, you can pop his 4k damage, and then they swing activates all your characters. You do the 4k damage again, or like whatever it is. Like maybe there's something cool there that is mono. Again, you still has to be mono Earth, but you have the power to easily play an Urianger and Layak. Yeah. So why not? Okay, cool. So moving on, we've got another tough Ronso.
Kimari, weak Ronso. So this is Biran, 3 cost, 7k forward, Ronso, one of Kimari's tormentors. If you control a card named Yankee, Biran gains 1,000 power and Brave. So he would be a 3 cost, 8k Brave. That's very solid. And then you can pay 1 Earth until the end of the turn. Biran gains Brave, and Biran cannot become dull by your opponent's summons or abilities. I like that they can't become dull. The Brave is a little redundant because, like you said, you're going to play these 2 cards together. There's no scenario right now where you wouldn't play them together. So I feel like he's always going to have Brave regardless. But again, I guess on the offhand chance Yankee isn't out yet, just like, oh, okay, well, another Brave, and that way. And again, if anything, you can just do it so if you're playing against Ice and they go dull freeze, you just go, nope, can't become dull. He's honestly fine. Like for 3, he's on curve at 3 cost 7k, and if you're playing him with his buddy, he's 8k Brave for 3, which is very good. I like that a lot. And the ability to not become dull. Again, Earth continues to get a lot of ice hate, which is nice. Maybe Lightning too, because they like to dull. So with no other Ronso support or anything like that currently, and I don't recall Final Fantasy X having a ton of Earth cards either. So I doubt he's going to see space for Constructed, but for Limited or Draft, I think he's a fun little combo.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add. I kind of like that he gets Brave with the action ability, because maybe you want to break Yankee and then give him Brave. But or maybe just it's future proofing as well. This becomes good with like, oh, you know what though, no matter what, if you're playing another Yankee, he still gets the Brave. So it is kind of odd, but you know what? It's a fine card for those formats that you listed.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have the Death Lord, which was one of the spoilers I got to comment on when they did the community spoilers. So this is a 5 CP forward 9k job Death Lord, which is pretty much the coolest job you can get. When Death Lord enters the field, you may search for 1 dark character and add it to your hand. This is just a solid card, because there are decks now that you want to run so many dark cards sometimes that you just can't be bothered with Camelot anymore, and this allows you to search for your other dark forwards while staying in a discardable card, and staying on curve. So I think that this, as a utility card, will see play in some lists and is pretty solid, but I don't think it's a crazy card either. It's, take it or leave it. Some people will want to play it and some people won't.
Yeah, he'll fit really well if you're running that kind of dart deck, and if you feel you don't really need Cam, then he's arguably superior because, like you said, you can pitch him for 2 CP, whereas you can't do that with Camelot. He can still grab your Chaos, he can grab your Kadaj, whatever you want. So yeah, I think he fulfills what he wants to do very well, and I like his art too.
And in Earth, Ice, and Earth, Wind, we have FFL Searchers, so he can be found in both those decks, and both Earth, Wind, and Earth, Ice play Dark Forward, so he does have a home there.
Absolutely.
Okay, how about the next one?
All right, Beastmaster, 3 cost, backup, job standard unit from Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. This is on theme with cards you've gotten for every element. When Beastmaster enters the field, turn over 1 card at a time from the top of your deck until a lightning or water card is revealed. Add it to your hand. Then shuffle the other cards, return them to the bottom of the deck. Earth Lightning has always played very well together, so he definitely fits right in with that. And Earth Water, I feel like, has often played well together too, even though I don't see it as often. So just like all the other cards of this type from this element, if it's what you're looking for, he's going to be good. Otherwise,
This is your Mono Earth 15 card that finds Lunafreya for you.
Right? There you go. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's how you get her in there.
Then you can search Lunafreya on demand and then get all your 15 cards doing their thing.
Finally.
All right. Next up is Mandragora. This is a monster 2 CP when an Earth character other than Mandragora enters your field. Place 1 monster counter on him. You can put him into the break zone, choose 1 backup of cost 5 or more, break it, which is a fine ability. There's lots of backups like that currently. Put him into the break zone, choose 1 backup, break it. You can only use this if you have 3 or more monster counters. This is my favorite one of all the monster counter monsters, because breaking a backup universally is just really strong, and I think this could see play in Mono Earth because I don't think it'd be that hard to set up. And I also just like it because if you have this, you can break stuff like Star Sybil, you could break things like Minfilia, Pururu, like there's lots of cool things that are like, you can break Unes with this and you don't need any monster counters. You can break Doga, so I think we'll see play.
He is the most expensive so far. Most of these cards are all 1 CP, and he's the first one that is 2 CP. So he is 1 more. And I agree, he's definitely relevant because of the backup breaking, but I'll also echo my own opinion of all these others, is that I think it'll come down to space and just... Because, again, ideally, if this comes down turn 1 or turn 2, he's great because it's so easy to get the counters going right away. And maybe if you can early break one of their important backups, you can maybe really wreck their curve. But if you don't see this guy till later in the game, you might have trouble getting all those counters on him. The one thing I don't like about him, whereas the other monsters will always succeed, this guy, if you can't get the 3 counters on him, what if they don't have a backup of 5 or more? He actually isn't doing anything. So that's my one worry with him, plus being a little more expensive.
Yeah, I wish there was an easier way to recur monsters in Earth. For example, if you have, like in Water, it's going to be so good because Gao on entry brings back a 2 CP monster. That would make this so good to be able to bring it back and just break a... And like you just pitch it, right? And then in a monster synergy deck, it would be fine to sit around for a while collecting counters as well. But yeah, I think you're right that it's at most it's going to be a one of, and it's going to take some experimenting to see if it works.
100%.
Okay, we've got a very pretty looking backup to talk about next.
It's Ryu from Street Fighter. Okay, so this is a 2 CP monk backup, job standard unit. He really looks like Ryu from Street Fighter. He's got the headband and everything. So you pay 1 Earth, dull, and put monk into the break zone. Choose a forward, deal it 3,000 damage for each job monk or card name monk you control. So in a monk deck, that sounds very dangerous. That sounds like you're basically going to blow something up on demand, which is where you would keep this guy in a pure monk deck. Again, I don't know it as well as Alex, but for what it reads, I imagine that's always going to hit for a lot of damage. So that sounds really good to me.
It's very aggressively costed, such an easy payment cost, and it's so easy to to get to 9, 12K with it. I've got to 15K.
Nice.
You always want to get one level higher than what you need, because if they break a monk on the stack, they can reduce the damage. This also doesn't count itself. When you put it into the break zone as part of the cost, it's not on the field to count. So I often have 2 monk backups, and then you have Ursula, that's 9K. And then if you have another monk forward, another monk backup, you're at 12. So it's very, very easy to kill things with this.
Job name and card name. Keep it up. I like it.
Yeah. Following up, we have another monk. This is part of our standard units that have a special gimmick when you play them. So when monk enters the field, choose one forward. If the cost to play monk was paid with CP of 2 or more elements, until the end of the turn it gains 4,000 power and brave. So you get to choose a forward and boost it, which is fine. Oh, and he's a 4 CP AK. I don't know if I mentioned that standard unit. I wish he was 3 CP and 7K, and it's interesting because a lot of these standard units are 4 CP and 7Ks. They're undercurved, and I think that's a total. I feel like almost all of them should be 3 CP, and they'd all be way more playable. But these cards are just super difficult to play. It has really good synergy with Ursula. Like, you could play this, boost Ursula, she could break it, and he becomes kind of like a Raubon. Like, when monk enters the field, he deals 9K to him. Like, that's what he becomes, a Raubon in an Ursula deck. But Ursula, I don't know that Ursula needs that. And then you can't be running mono earth monks. You'll have to be in a multicolor.
Right.
So I'm probably gonna try it, but overall, I don't like this card that much.
Yeah, likewise, one of the lesser ones. And I said this with the Chelinka backup, too. It's just that cards like this, you have to have another forward out, because if he's the only forward out, the 4K Brave is pointless because he can't attack, and Earth has no access to haste. So, and so cards like that always just make me a little eh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think his best shot is to be played in an Ursula deck, just because he enables her all of her abilities by existing. Okay, cool. How about the next card?
Next, we have Rieg. Let's say Rieg.
Sounds
4
good.
cost, 8K body. He is an adventurer from FFL. At EX Burst, when Rieg enters the field, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a forward, add it to your hand. I don't know. He's fine, I guess. Maybe you would run him with like a Fire Earth, like with Nail, where you know you're going to have a bunch of forwards in your deck, so you can kind of guarantee to trigger it. Honestly, he's just a bit too risky for me. I'd hate to put him down because if that effect doesn't trigger, then there's nothing else he's doing. Like, that is the whole point of this card. So I would hate to plop him down and then just miss the forward. So nothing for me. So this isn't my kind of card. Maybe he'd be fun in like standard or limited, but again, the only other thing I could see him in is something where a deck that uses Nail, or something where you want to jam a lot of forwards in.
Yeah. So. He's too risky for me. Are you familiar with the deck? It's seen a lot of play over earlier sets, and it's called Oops All Forwards.
I've heard of that. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so it's typically a mono earth deck that runs almost entirely forwards, if not all forwards. It runs a lot of things that bring more forwards in. So things like Yang Ursula, things like Vanille, just lots of forwards that bring more forwards in, and then it just jams a bizarre amount of EX bursts in there, so it has some like Rabons and Mustadios as well. So this would fit in that deck very well, because it would almost always hit.
Right.
So, yeah, maybe we'll see Oops All Forwards come back. Okay, next we have Lich, which is a 5 CP 9K forward job chaos from category 1. When Lich enters the field, you may pay an earth and a generic. When you do so, choose one forward in your break zone, add it to your hand. When Lich is put from the field to the break zone, you may search one job chaos other than card name Lich and add it to your hand. So this is part of that whole chaos archetype that we've been talking about, and it's not great like the other ones. It's one of the ones I like more because it's a 2 CP cost. So off 5 backups, you play him, and then you can trade a backup you don't want in your hand for a forward in your break zone, which is pretty good. It's kind of like a proactive Luminous Puma, where the upside is that you get a forward rather than one extra recursion. So in games when you're being pressured heavily and you need to do some recursion, but it's way too slow to play Puma, then this card would actually be a lot more solid to bring something back to your hand. So I feel like maybe even it sees play with the 1 CP Chaos, Dark Chaos in some sort of deck like that where it can get some value, but overall I think it's just under the mark.
Yeah, I mean, all the 4 Fiends have been kind of disappointing, but like I do think this is probably one of the best ones because it's just the 2 cost. I kind of think of it like you're casting a Kusith when he comes into the field, and so you're just pulling that forward back. So I think he could see some uses. Unfortunately, again, just the 5 CP 9K slot is already just so locked up with good things.
Yeah.
Maybe if this was a burst, like maybe that would have made a difference for all these guys if they had a burst effect to them. But as he is, I do like him more than the others, but it's still, I don't know, it's hard to see them seeing the light of day.
Yeah, I think burst for example, the wind one would just break a 5 cost burst. Like, I think it would have pushed them just over the limit.
Yeah.
So it was hard to balance these. Maybe make them 4 CP9Ks. I don't know. Like but yeah, they're just not going to work that well.
Yeah. So next we have Iridia from Final Fantasy IV. She's a 3 cost 7K forward. Most of you probably already know this. This was a promo card. It's been out for a while. But we'll go over it anyway. Job Summoner. The category 4 forwards other than Iridia you control gain 1,000 power and brave. When Iridia enters the field, if you control 4 or more category 4 characters, you may search for 1 summon of cost 1 and add it to your hand. Obviously, she has to go in a 4 deck because everything she does is related to 4. And, you know, when this card first came out, I really just blew it off like 1 cost summon. That's pointless. But now we've gotten a bunch of 1 cost summons, not only like in the last set, but this set too. You know, so now that Opus X Titan can come out. The Exodus we just talked about can come out. Pandemonium can come out. I'm sure there's something in water that'll be able to come out. So she has a lot more targets now. So I think this could be a lot more of a relevant card than it originally was because we have gotten so many more 1 cost summons.
So we also got a bunch more category 4 characters, including lots of backups. So this is way more achievable than it was in the past. There is a really good 1 CP Kukulane in water already that would see some play with this card. I like this. You can see in the background of the art there's Luca, and Luca got printed. We'll see soon enough as a 2 CP backup. I think it's very reasonable to play 3 category 4 backups or more in like water earth or wind water or something like that, and then this then becomes live quite easily without too much of a chance of disruption. Okay, so now on to
Speaking of Luca.
Yeah, she's a 2 CP earth backup category 4 job engineer. She has 1 earth and a doll. Put Luca into the break zone. Choose 1 backup of cost 3 or less in your break zone, played onto the field. I really like this ability. So this is inherently valuable already because it's a 4 backup and it plays well with the oh, there we go. Plays well with the Iridia, but it also lets you cheat in backups from other elements. So you could play in Mono Earth, you could play Minwu, for example, and this is going to let you play Minwu onto the field. It's going to let you play Searchers for Ultra Value, and it actually works out quite well in terms of trading up, because this is, if you play this early, it's going to get you lots of value. You can pitch your Enna Crow, and then the backup will replace this one. So you can think about that typical cost of putting a backup into the break zone. That doesn't apply here because you do get a backup to replace it. So it really is just a 2 CP and get a 3 CP out of your break zone. So it's like a 1 CP discount on that 3 CP backup. So I really like this card. I think it's quite strong.
Yeah, it's a good. I'm glad it comes to the field because if it came to your hand, it'd be kind of pointless. But like you said, you could even do those fun little plays where maybe they're swinging in, they think they're going to trade, and you put your Anthem out, and then haha, now I'm 1,000K stronger. Or this could have some nice stuff with some of those cards that do, this turn when this enters the field, buff something by 2,000 and Brave or something like that. So you can use it as little surprise tricks because it's not limited to like your turn. You can use this anytime during your opponent's turn. So yeah, I actually like her quite a bit. She should be fun.
I think there's off-color 3 CP backups in every element that you would want to cheat in with this, which just gives it a really fun little bonus.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're moving on to the starters.
All right, Stephen Riley, this is for you. This is 3 CP, 7K Vincent. He's a forward, job gunslinger from 7. This is my friend's favorite card. So he has 2 specials. First special is, or they're both limit breaks from the game. First one is Death Gigas, which is a second limit break that he earns. Until the end of the turn, you just pay 1 special. Until the end of the turn, Vincent gains 1,000 power, first strike, and when Vincent attacks, choose a dull forward of cost 4 or less, break it. Pretty neat. Here's what he's really for. At damage 5, he becomes Chaos, which is his ultimate limit break from Final Fantasy VII. You just pay 1 special. Vincent gains 3,000 power, first strike, and when Vincent attacks, choose 1 character, break it. This effect does not end at the end of the turn. And it doesn't specifically say this, you can stack this effect, as my buddy loves to do. He very often has gotten 2 shots of Chaos on this guy. He's a 13K first strike that's breaking 2 characters on attack. It's freaking nutty. So what to think about it? Like, when you get the Chaos going, it's awesome. And he's really fun, and it's neat. And like that Barrett, he's just a fun card. He's really fun. That being said, from a competitive standpoint, the problem is that when you don't have a special, he's pointless because he has no other effects. He's literally designed around a special. But as my buddy has shown, as he has played it a lot, he's only dropping him on the field when he has the special. He's not going to put him out otherwise. And he has a lot of recursion in that deck with Minor and other things where he's just pulling back those specials. And if you have no answer to it, again, if you don't have an outright break, like the only way I saw someone get around it was they Shantoto'd and just broke him outright. But that was before the set release. So if he's got that Tifa out and you can't outright break this, what are you going to do? You've got Yuffie out. He's a 13K Brave first striker. You're donezo. Game's over. But again, I also understand that that's a lot of setup and all that. So like the Barrett, I think this is really, really fun. Vincent does have some other good choices. So those are probably a bit more reliable, again, because they do things without the specials. But there's no denying how much fun I've seen with this card being played.
Yeah, I think you hit it all right on the head there. None of the abilities give haste, so this card is slow, and they have to have Vincent's in hand, which isn't hard in an element that gives you a ton of recursion. This card terrifies me, but I also don't have any desire to play it. I don't know that it would be competitive or not, but it's certainly very fun.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes. Moving on to the final card. This is Cloud. He is a 2 CP 5K forward, category 7 drop soldier, which is relevant. He has an ability to put 1 category 7 forward into the break zone, search for 1 forward that costs 1 CP more than the forward you put into the break zone, and play it onto the field. You can only use its ability during your main phase. So this is a super powerful ability to be able to play a card that costs an extra 1 CP higher, and you can actually use it on himself. He could use it on himself to search that new starter Sephiroth that's in Lightning. There's some pretty cool implications of this. The main place I have seen this be played in is that Golbez deck that runs this. It runs the G Diver water forward that's 2 CP.
Wow.
So Golbez breaks, it brings out Lightning Ramza, it brings out Cloud, it brings out the G Diver, which when it breaks, it goes you both draw a card, and it also brings out the Don Corneo 2 CP Ice Forward. So right away you have 2 targets for Cloud. They can bring out this 3 CP Sephiroth, and you can just keep breaking them to play more and more stuff. And the deck is actually incredibly powerful. It's so blindingly fast. It also has 2 CP Luso in Wind and 3 CP Bartz in Wind, which can be brought out by Cloud. And the deck's so strong, it actually won before the whole COVID-19 closure of shops. It actually won locals 2 weeks in a row for us, this Golbez deck. So this card is super powerful, and it's amazingly fair in that it requires you to put so much work in to make it good. So this is just a very fun card. It's well designed, it's unique, it's entertaining, and there's a lot of thinking that goes into it in terms of deck building and in terms of playing.
This is, of course, our cover art for Opus 11, like the sleeves we get. And yeah, you said it all. Like, he's very fair. He's fun. He's very easy to kill. He's only 5K, so it's very easy to hit him with kind of almost any nuke and stop him, which is nice. It just feels like they really designed this well. I've seen so many fun combos with him. There was a 3 CP Ice Ford called Shelk, which is category 7, and I've seen people literally use the cloud effect on himself, pull the Shelk out, which then pulls the cloud out again. Yeah, so there's just so many fun little things you can do with it. Yeah, this is a very good card, and this is the kind of thing I like to see from this set. So yeah, he's a great one to end on. Really, honestly, his biggest thing is and you know what's funny is that he doesn't really clash with the other clouds because of the way he's designed.
Yeah.
You're not going to use him in the same way you would use the other clouds. You know, those are going to be in a totally different type of deck. So yeah, they did it for finally. They made a cloud that was like, hey, this one's so different and does such a different thing. You're not going to use him against the other ones.
And you could even use other clouds in this cloud's list, and he's so easy to clear himself. And then you like in a pinch, it's so easy to play another cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that too. He can break himself to play the 3 CP light cloud.
Yeah, which is nice.
Like there's all sorts of implications there. Okay, so as a overall element, I think that Earth is certainly not as strong as Ice and Fire was. Kind of closer to Wind. You got some very specific support. So your 15, your monks, your Final Fantasy 7 stuff. But once again, Earth got 2 legends that have to be played in very specific decks, and I don't like that. Although I do like both legends, but that's
they're better than the 10 ones at least, because I didn't like the 10 legends they got at all.
Yeah, well, and it was the exact same thing in 10 that they were both hyper specific legends. So overall, I think Earth got some pretty interesting stuff and lots of very cool archetypes to explore, but probably one of the weaker elements. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it would be cool if we saw another Cecil type legend from Opus 5 or a Wool, because again, those will go great in any deck. Whereas, like you said, lately it seems like a lot of the Earth legends are always, hey, they're very hyper focused on a certain archetype or category. So
yeah. Okay, well, that's going to be it from us. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back soon enough with the Lightning set review. So thanks again. My name is Alex Scott.
I'm Travis Pfeifer. Hey, stay grounded.
Thank you so much for watching. You can like and subscribe to support us further, and you can read the Mysidia Post articles at themysidiapost.com. You can also check out our Patreon if you want to support us more. And if you need FFTCG singles, then look no further than Cards That You Release. They've got great deals and prices. Check them out. Finally, I'd like to thank FF Decks for creating the best website for creating your Final Fantasy trading card game decks. They've also got a Patreon, so make sure you go check them out. They work so hard for the community, so let's pay them back. See you next time.